Hello, hello. I think you're muted, Jackie.
Yep,
There you go.
there I
Hey,
am.
there you go.
How come I'm not on video though?
I don't know. There's Todd.
There we go.
Todd's muted. Now he's not.
I don't know if I got my the instructions, Cam.
Oh no.
We'll see if he pops up here in the next couple of minutes. We might go a little long with your advertising. If not, let's pull a replay.
Okay.
Dang it.
Put the music on.
Let's if we need to, Cam, pull up the replay of the show last week.
Okay. Okay.
It's too bad we can't send invites from Zoom, huh?
Well, if I make you a co-host, you should be able to now.
From where?
From the bottom, it should say no. Doesn't it say that?
Invite.
Yeah, there you go. Did you find it?
Looks like he's frozen.
Yep. No, oh, he's moving. He's moving. There you go.
That seemed to have a whole lot of stuff in that.
Did you find the invite?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think he's here. Hang on.
Right on.
Yep. Nice. There. Okay, there we go.
Hello.
Right on.
Hey, Jamie. Hi.
Sorry about that, dude. I didn't send you the instructions.
No, I just got it just now in my email, and we're on to the minute, so we're groovy.
Hey, did you hear what he just said? He said groovy.
Oh, yeah, he's a groovy guy. My most
Todd's
favorite word.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
All right, stand.
I think.
Stand by. We're going live here.
We're going
live. Stand by. It's all right here. Leading authors, speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs with stories and messages to support your well-being, let alone your most evocative dreams.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and that's because when I woke up this morning, I decided to make it that way. I think what we're going to learn on the show today is you can make it a groovy day, but there are all kinds of things that might come your way that provided some kind of trigger. And we're going to talk about that on the show today, on how we recognize those triggers, how we can use those to benefit us and open those massive doors to our own internal creativity. Before we get started, I always like to get myself centered and situated. And if we just take a minute, and I really want you to focus and consider that which gives you power. What do you tap into that gives you power? It might be the doorknob that opens up to your bedroom. It might be the tree off your deck. But whatever that is, let's just consciously focus and tune into that for a second. And then let's just take in a deep breath. And let that breath out with a big ah. Just let your essence flow up from your solar plexus, through your heart center, out of your speaker box, and out into the universe. Let those dreams, visions, and goals just fly out there, and for sure, allow the universe, spirit, God, Allah, whatever it is that you believe in, the opportunity to make those come true for you. Da, 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 da. There we are. Welcome to Life Mastery Radio, the talk show that brings you great thoughts and ideas for you to use on your very own life mastery journey. As always, I have my co-host with me today, the groovy one, Jackie Bailey. Da,
hey,
da, da, da.
I'm groovy, baby.
How's Jackie doing? So many of you that tune into the show on a regular basis know that Jackie just stepped off the edge of her own becoming and created a school for young people. And this is such a mind-blowing idea for young people to discover their voice. And it is really cool. It's called Speak, Feed, and Lead. Did I get them in the right order, Jackie?
You did. Speak, feed, lead. We speak with power. We feed others in word and deed. And we lead with a positive influence. And
this school is an after-school thing. So give us a little bit of an update. I think you started classes last week. You found this space. You created it. You made it comfortable. These kids are now coming. And where are we at?
Yeah, we're in our second week of full class schedule. And we've got kids that range in age, that was hard to say, from grade 4 up to grade 12. And we're starting our curriculum with just learning how to talk to each other. You know, I've discovered over 4 years of teaching children that their scariest moments are not up on stage. It's actually talking to people face to face and knowing what type of conversation subject matter to bring up, how to ask questions, how to have eye contact with people. So that's where we begin, helping them feel comfortable one-on-one, and then being on stage will be a lot easier, especially since we want to teach them how to just have a conversation on stage with people, right?
Well, and to discover I think the cool part is really these kids are going inside and finding out what makes them tick. Absolutely. And what's important to them, and realizing that they can have dialogue with others about their thoughts and ideas.
Sure. Yeah, these kids, right now they're little parrots. They tell you things that their parents have taught them, or that the things that they hear at school. Right. But they don't. Jamie probably can attest to this. Kids, and most people, perhaps don't even know what their actual beliefs are, because we've got this tape that's playing in our head all the time about things that we're supposed to know, things we're supposed to do, ways we're supposed to act, and we're not our true selves. So I pride myself in helping those children to figure out what it is they really believe, who they are, what are the experiences that taught them that, and then give them a way to have a powerful delivery in sharing their message with other people.
Wonderful. Yeah. I mean, even starting that conversation, even for them to be listened to, is so huge in the developmental part of the brain. You know, we've been so taught to shut parts of ourselves down. We come in as this beautiful wide spectrum of a person, involving all the dark and the light and the messy and the tidy and the, and we're taught, this part about you is not welcome. Oh, we don't do that in this house. Oh, we don't do this in this school. Or people who like that are greedy or egotistical, and you start having to edit yourself to this shop window version to just maintain love and contact with everybody. Yeah. And then, you grow up this like 15-20% version of yourself. So for the kids very early on to have that wider part of their spectrum, which includes the part that wants to speak and be heard and maybe even be in the spotlight, or all these legitimate things, to halt that narrowing process. Because the narrowing process of editing ourselves down to the shop window that everyone will think is appropriate also narrows the intimacy we can experience with each other, the connection. And connection is kind of what we're on this planet for, really. I'm sure you've already covered this, but brilliant people like Dr. Gabor Mate, they say that the opposite of addiction is connection, that actually all addicts, whether it be a shopping addict or an online addict or a drug addict or an alcoholic, all the addicts, it's all the opposite of connection. And when we're feeling really connected and into what we're doing and connected with ourselves, we don't get so hooked into addictions.
You know, some of our listeners might be kind of going, "Whoa, who is that guy?" So I'm gonna officially. No, it's all good, Jamie. It's all good. You know, life.
I'm gonna go make a cup of tea while you do the big introduction.
Not really big. Not really big.
Come back.
Come back to us. Our guest today is the infamous Jamie Catto. And Jamie is a creator, producer, director of the multi-award-winning Global One Giant Leap films and albums, and founding member of a band called Faithless. And it is now leading a uniquely transformative workshop.
You're not supposed to be reading it. Just say it. Don't read it off a page.
And
be yourself. Just say, this is the style.
And I'm going to tell you, he's in all my research, he's just an all around really groovy guy. And the way I found him was through one of my great teachers, and that's Ram Dass. And Jamie has created this new film. This is his new project. It's called Becoming Nobody. And it is a quintessential portal to Ram Dass's life and his teachings. And he will be in Seattle. He'll be in a place near you soon. So you can Google Becoming Nobody, but he will be in Seattle this Saturday, September 19th. Yay. That's where Jackie and I are, and we will both be 29th. There. Yeah, the 29th, and I'm excited to...
29th.
It's actually Sunday, right?
Yep.
Sunday the 29th, yeah.
Sunday the 29th?
So, yeah. Sunday is Seattle, Monday is Boston.
Nice.
Wow. I was going to tell you, one of our mutual teachers, who you like impersonating a lot.
Bashar.
Huh? Bashar? No, not Bashar. No. The guy from India. What's his name? You do such a great impersonation.
Oh my God.
Deepak Chopra.
Oh yes. It is what does he call the body? An exquisite pharmacy.
Exquisite
pharmacy?
Yeah, your body, while you speak, is looking for drugs, looking for viruses, looking for bacteria, making its own drugs, secreting things, mixing them together, administering them to you in the perfect quantities, day and night, while you sit here, while you sleep. It's an exquisite pharmacy. That's what he said.
And that's where a lot of that's where a lot of the inspiration for your teaching philosophy came from, was that understanding that this body is designed to heal itself.
Yeah.
And you describe this as this junk. And when we tune into that feeling, you know, it's like taking, what did you say? It's an emotional laxative, and all of this stuff just comes up.
Yeah, you know how Eckhart Tolle speaks about the pain body in The Power of Now, that we all have an accumulation of all the tears we haven't cried, and the rage we haven't screamed, and the injustice, and all the accumulation of all the unexpressed emotional pain. And so the body's genius wants to, excuse me, someone's car alarm's gone off. The body's genius wants to, someone's cleaning my hotel room while we're speaking.
Oh, but it's so cool to be real, right?
Yeah. So yeah, all this pain body, the body's genius wants, it, like we were just saying, it's an exquisite pharmacy. So it knows, it's not stupid. It knows we've all got this huge lump of unprocessed emotional constipation in us that's making us overreact. And, you know, when somebody speaks to you in a tone of voice you don't like, you don't just feel the irritation or the upset from what they just said. You feel the lineage of all the people that ever spoke to you back through your whole life. That's why we overreact so incredibly to everybody, because of the unprocessed version of your people treating you like that your whole life. You feel you're not just that idiot. So that's why we're always overreacting. So the body knows it's got this huge lump of constipated emotional poo in it. And what does it want to do with constipation? Of course, it wants to flush it out. How does it flush it out? It has to be felt. And the way that we feel it is on the way out is through one of the 7 spiritual anuses that some people call chakras, which is really the body's emotional plumbing system. That's why when someone upsets you, that's where you feel it, down the front, you know, or wherever. So being a willing participant, saying, I'm going to be willing to feel those things, instead of every time you feel something uncomfortable, thinking something's wrong. We're so comfort addicted. The moment we have an edgy feeling or something we don't like, something's wrong, I need a session to get rid of this. We want to get rid of everything uncomfortable. So that's not a good, that's not helpful. But if we say, actually, I'm a human who's willing, even curious to feel some of my uncomfortable feelings, then suddenly you can be a willing participant with what that sensation is doing in the body, which is basically pooing out some unwanted old constipation when you feel reactive or upset. And if you can be with it, that's the beginning of self-love, of going, oh, hello, and letting it poo itself out. And then you realize exactly all these people you were trying to avoid, all these difficult, challenging situations and people in your life are, as you say, walking laxatives. They're essential. So all the time our ego is looking for the comfort zone to never be triggered and never feel anything that isn't fluffy and always be happy. While the ego is trying to maintain that comfort zone, the soul, which is trying to flush out all this old shit and stuff, is looking for idiots. The soul's looking for an idiot while you're looking for a friend. And that's the game, is to allow the idiots to do their work and not try and push away all the dark, uncomfortable body flushing stuff away in the idiots, and only keep it nice, because the dirty dishes build up so much, you'll have a breakdown or a bankruptcy or a divorce or an illness by the time you're 40.
Right. I was taught to pay attention to what I'm paying attention to, and that floats in with your idea. But in reading your book and reviewing for this show today, recognizing that and then feeling it and being with it is kind of a new concept. I think I do that naturally, but oh man, when I started to get into your stuff, it was like, wow, this could be so empowering.
Well, and the body, as I said, it's doing it anyway. You can come willingly, or you can resist, and it builds up and up and up, and it hurts. It's not like you can't hold in a poo forever. The body doesn't let you. You will actually damage yourself.
And that's kind of why these things keep reoccurring, and we keep allowing ourselves to be triggered by these same things, and it still comes up. And yet your philosophy, your teaching is recognize it and be with it, and then it stops.
And be curious with it. It's like right now we're pushing it away. Anything uncomfortable, push away. I'm not just saying allow it. I'm saying turn towards it like a wine taster. Become so fascinated with it that it actually turns from a lump of pain into a flower with incredible treasure that you suddenly realize, oh my God, when I was young, I always thought that when I did something great that I was manipulating people. This is something I discovered recently, which was a huge kind of step for me. Was I realized that early in my life, something good had happened and someone had said to me, like had kind of criticized, like I was being manipulative or I was being this, and I'd really taken it on. And ever since then in my life, whenever I did something great and people thought, hey, Jamie, that was a great movie or that was a great song, I always felt a little bit guilty. Like I'd somehow kind of manipulated them to like me. It hadn't been really from the heart. The praise or the love they were giving me was ill-gotten gains. Somehow I just got that into my head as a kid a few times. And I realized how much in my adult life, when people are trying to share with me how much they've enjoyed something I've done or just give me love, I feel a bit guilty about it, like I tricked them or something like that. That's just like one little thing. Maybe some of your listeners will share that. I don't know. But like when I realized that, when you turn towards it lovingly, it really makes a really, really big change. And you can say, I don't choose to actually live as if that's true anymore. But you can only do that when you're willing to become a wine taster of the yucky feeling. If you're constantly trying to live a life of comfort and never feeling yucky feelings, you'll never get the treasure behind it, which is the net that you're caught in. But by turning towards it and allowing those feelings to be felt, then suddenly the net loosens. Because you're not resisting it. Like the famous thing with an animal, it's by resisting it gets tangled up in the net. When it stays very still, you can kind of get the net to slip off. So it's like that. Our struggling, going, no, 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 no. These demons that we look at as demons are really like, imagine you leave a shop and some guy seems to be following you down the street and you're like, oh, now you're feeling nervous. I'm in danger now. I'm not feeling safe. And then so you start walking a bit faster. So they start walking a bit faster. Now in your mind, they're a gorilla-sized guy with a knife. So you go even faster, and then you find yourself down a blind alley, and this huge ogre is coming towards you, and you have no choice but to turn around and face it. And it's a guy, and he goes, "Oh, you forgot your wallet." That's what we're like with our demons. They're actually things trying to give us treasure, release, healing. We're so used to the comfort zone, and anything that isn't usually what I think should be exactly what I think is safe, we're so uptight around it that we're just pushing treasure away left, right, and center.
So how do you know this, Jamie? Tell us about your childhood or the experiences that you've had that have taught you these principles, because you're very secure in this. You're sharing it all over the world. Have you always been this way, or what were some of the changes that occurred in your life that allowed you to feel free to share what you know?
Yeah, I wish I had a brilliant answer to that one.
Make something up. It's okay.
I came down, I was once on a mountain, and the cloud parted. Jesus' hand came down and scooped me up.
That would be unbelievable, though.
Yeah.
I think it was like I had so many bumps that they made me free. I had so many bumps that they didn't hurt anymore. Or I realized that bumps are okay or something. Like, it's not like there's any great revelation except being willing to experience all that life gives you. It's like I had the comfort zone forced out of my hand. Believe me, every step of my evolution has been unwilling. I've been dragged backwards through every revelation I've ever had, but just enough times of having enough panic attacks and enough times where I lived, even though I was sure I was going to die, and enough times where it looked like I was falling off a cliff, but I actually fell into the arms of some treasure. It's like if you go on a holiday, right? The first day you dip your toe in the pool and you think, oh, and you feel a bit resistant to jumping in the pool because it's unusual and it's like cold, whatever. But by the 5th day of the holiday, you get straight up, walk out the back and jump straight in the pool because you know that pool's going to feel good, even though at first it showed itself to. So I've just had lots of times where things which looked like they were going to be bad turned out to be good.
So it's life experiences that have taught you this. And when you were talking about bumps, there's a speech actually that I used to give that was called Bumps or Blessings. And it's because well, I was with a group of girls. I was a counselor at a girls' camp one summer. And one of those girls was running through a field and she stepped into a hole and she dislocated her knee. And she was in extreme pain. And of course, we're about 5 miles outside of any medical facility. And we had to take her in this car down this long, probably 5-mile bumpy road to get her to a medical facility to help her with this. Wow. Yeah. And she was in extreme pain. And so we were trying to drive slow, at the same time get there as quickly as we could. And one of those bumps came on us too quickly for us to slow down in time. We hit the bump. The car went airborne coming out of the bump, and this young girl just screamed, "Wah!" And then she said, "Oh, wait, that feels better." Because the bump had actually relocated her knee.
Wow. Amazing.
And so it's those experiences where you think we have to be really careful down this road. It's going to hurt if I go fast. But in reality, the bumps that we hit in life sometimes are the exact thing we need to get us out of the pain that we're in.
Or get you out of the codependent relationship where you're being a beggar and not being upheld.
Exactly.
You're in this codependent relationship where you're so sure that how your partner is dictates how your day is. If they're feeling bad, the day is bad. If they're feeling good, the day is good. And you don't dare leave because you're so used to where you are, but you're not being upheld. You're not being worshipped and loved and adored, but you just like kind of stay there because of this scarcity paradigm. And then you're so scared that something's going to happen where, it might shake the comfort zone. But then when something does and you find yourself actually out of the relationship, you're like, Jesus, it's like waking up from a spell. Where have I been? Exactly. How did I stay that long in that situation? Oh my God, someone slapped me. So it's like, it's often these things we cling to the discomfort when life is trying to give us something better.
So does your music speak of these lessons that you've learned?
Massively, yeah. Everything I do as an artist and as an enlightened master is to make these things as good medicine coming out towards it. These kind of things we're talking about today, which is turning towards the self, being loving, being humorous, being fallible, loving publicly falling over and tripping over your heartstrings and, you know, loving all that, and all those kind of teachings that are in like the Insanely Gifted book. I feel that like it is the best medicine. It is the difference between living life in color or living it in black and white. You can live in the uptight shop window, totally like running from every discomfort and not understanding why life seems to not be working. Or you can just turn towards this stuff and being loving and silly and look at the comedy in it and not take it all so seriously and just be bumped along a bit more and not be so phobic about people seeing you as this or seeing you as that. Sharing a bit more of your mess, sharing a bit more of your vulnerability, be a bit more humorous about your own melodrama. When you start doing all that, this is the medicine that really makes life worth living. So everything I do, whether it be songs or films or the Insanely Gifted book or the Becoming Nobody movie, everything is trying to promote everyone lightening up and giving them this medicine, giving them this lovely, lightened up, simple path out of hell, really. And I feel so passionately that what I think is everyday and normal and just common sense and just totally stating the obvious is like really radical for some people, you know? And so like, it's so obvious to me. I just can't bear from my OCD of everyone not getting what's right under their nose. There's so much enjoyment and ecstatic progress and love and intimacy in all this that we really want is right under our nose, hidden in plain sight. And we've just built it into some phantom of, oh, I couldn't, it's too, and it's like heartbreaking. We've built this map around ourselves with all these dragons, you know, there be dragons, like these old-fashioned maps with dragons around the edges. And actually, when you take a tiny quarter turn towards your edge, you realize there's no dragon there. It's a child's chalk drawing of a dragon, and one little, and it's gone. It's such low-hanging fruit, this stuff. Don't get seduced. Shadow work. I've got to get into my deep... Bollocks. It's very fun, very gentle, low-hanging fruit. You don't have to go into deep scuba to do this stuff. Just gently snorkeling around the edge is plenty.
You know, I was reminded, I was watching some of your videos today, and you were teaching a workshop, and you stopped in the middle and you said, okay, we're just going to get rid of all of this PC stuff.
Did I?
Yeah. And you were talking about racism because you were talking about imitating Deepak Chopra is what you were talking about.
Oh, that might have been the Conscious 2 Transforming Shadows.
I think it was.
Wow.
And I was just hit. I was like, oh my gosh, we have a complete society today that is creating safe spaces and all of these other things. Not that they're bad, but we're taking it in the opposite direction of what we should be teaching people. And that is whatever's triggering you, whatever's setting you off, you need to understand what that is and be with it, explore it, find out more about it, and be released from it.
Yeah, or you may never be released from it, but next time it comes,
You're
it won't totally
it.
collapse you. You know,
Right.
this often people, they think they passive aggressive to themselves on their spiritual path. And they're like, oh, I'm so disappointed with myself. I really thought I was past this stuff. It's so passive aggressive that you're never past this stuff, or you might be. But it's like, it may, something you're sure that you've done years and years of work, spiritual work on, it can still come and bite you on the ass. Don't think you're ever exempt. Like Pema Chodron, don't worry about, live on square one, remove any idea of progress, and then you'll never worry about being back to square one. Just live on square one. Pema Chodron is a wonderful, wonderful teacher. And she is a student of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. She talks about it. She says, you know, I've been a chanting Buddhist monk now for 57 years. She goes, one morning with my granddaughter and the whole thing unravels. And that's how it's meant to be. That's how it's meant to be. You're not meant to think, oh, no, I'm back to square one. You're meant to go, wow, I'm so human. Look at me with 50 years of training and I'll still fall flat on my ass. How beautiful. How beautiful. Not how terrible. How great to be a bumbling human fool again. Ah, the relief of not being perfect. Thank God for that. It's wonderful to wear your imperfections proudly and give other people permission to do the same. Because there's great discovery in failure. There's great humility in tripping over and spilling the wine. It's wonderful to not be over it, to not be past it, to not have released it. I've done plenty of that stuff in my life, and of course it's helped me, but I don't think now that I'm further along, I will behave just like the same 12-year-old twat I did when I was 12 if you give me the wrong tone of voice or don't give me my breakfast quick enough or whatever. You know, like, those demons can creep in at every time. And to think that you're a person where that shouldn't happen is the biggest, what they call the golden chain of righteousness. You don't allow yourself to be human. And that was one thing Ram Dass talks about in the film, is that Emmanuel says to him, the spirit he speaks to, Emmanuel says to him, Ram Dass, you're on earth. You've taken a human incarnation. How about you're in school? How about taking the curriculum? But we're all so busy being holy that we think the human sides of us are somehow wrong or imperfect or not good enough or not advanced enough. And that's a bullshit trap. You're here to be human. Like Alan Watts said to Ram Dass in the film, he said, you know, your problem, Dick, you're too attached to emptiness.
Right.
And it's the same things like, forget your whole spiritual, I'm beyond this, I have got equity. No, some days you're going to be spiritual and you're going to be on top of the mountain. Some days you're going to be tumbling down the mountain and land squarely on the golden calf. You know, it's all of it all the time. Knowing that about yourself and not minding is enlightenment. Not minding that some days you're a mess, some days are easy, some days are hard. It's just weather. Knowing that it's weather is freedom. But there's no freedom that always gives you a blue sky. There's no formula for that. There's a formula for not minding that there are sometimes clouds.
You know, I was reading your book. I haven't got all the way through it, but right before the show, I got to chapter 5. And you quote Ram Dass, your problem is you're too busy holding on to your unworthiness. And I think that's right where you were at just now. But I'm reading the first paragraph and it hit me that I'm 1 in 200 million. I won the race.
Yeah.
Right? I was the one that got to the egg first and I became me.
And you won a human body for 80 or 90 years. And you don't have to do any fucking yoga. You don't have to. You can eat all the E-number biscuits and Oreos with their saturated. You do what the hell you like. You've done enough. This is the green room. This human life is the after show party. You've done the thing. There's nothing to achieve. There's nothing to do. Just enjoy yourself. Put yourself where you thrive. Believe me, if your soul doesn't agree with where you put yourself, it will show you in no uncertain terms. You don't need to get busy trying to guess what your evolution should be. That's your soul's job. It's like you're not meant to generate the poem. That's your muse's job. You just listen and be ready for it. So don't worry about evolving. Your soul won't let you not evolve if it wants you to. It's not your job. You're the human. Your job is to be loving, have a sweet time, and put yourself where you thrive. Don't stay in relationships where you're not thriving, or in a job or in a situation because it's so good it brings up my stuff. No, you're not meant to put yourself in upsetting situations because it's great, it brings up your stuff. That's self-harming. Your job is to look after this very fragile, special needs human who is, you know, incredibly reactive in some ways, incredibly wounded in other ways, you know, has very definite needs. Your job is to put that human where it thrives, where it feels relaxed, where it has a peaceful, beautiful time. It's your soul's job to give you lessons and curriculum. You're not meant to, you know, when it comes, don't resist it, but you deal with thriving. Have a good time. You've done enough.
So how do you help your clients thrive? What kind of people come to you for help? And
everybody.
Well, how do you begin to help someone, or can you share someone that was just really having a hard time with your philosophy?
People come with a kind of behavior they're doing or thing that they're experiencing that they want to get rid of. So that's the first thing we start with. It's like, you're not going to get rid of anything with me. What we're going to do is the opposite. We're going to turn towards it and we're going to become a wine taster of it. We're going to see what it wants to say to us. So recently there was a woman who just like, she was really into a lot of cool stuff, but she kept having this kind of angry sabotaging part of herself that kept going, well, if it's not how I want it, I'm not going at all. You know, like this kind of tantrumy hair trigger one that was like sabotaging everything. So she hates that part of herself. She hates it when that angry sabotaging part of herself comes forward. And she's done all kinds of workshops to try and get rid of it. but really, in my business, that character has got treasure for her. It's like a child who's being ignored that's got so angry. So what we do is we turn towards it and we call it forward. We say hi. And we feel it in the body. We feel where it lives in the body so that that's where the body can flush out some of its associated pains. We also ask it questions, you know, like what basic things, what do you need? There's different questions for different demons, like, but they all think they're helping. All these parts of ourselves that are sabotaging us, in their mind, they're helping. Just like your annoying parent that's always giving you advice. You think they're disempowering you and they're not appreciating that you know, blah, blah, blah in your mind. But in their mind, they think they're just being helpful. We're always misinterpreting everybody's intentions towards us. And it's the same with our demons. They're actually like the gorilla chasing you down the street trying to give you your wallet back. So what we do is we turn towards them, we start asking, just welcome them. We treat them with curiosity, welcoming, kindness, thank them for all their hard work. We bring them up to date with modern day values. We say, hey, we don't need to actually freak out at it because we're not 6 years old anymore. Look, I'm an adult. There are children asleep in the next room. There's a dry place to sleep. There's food in the fridge. There's petrol in the car. We're actually doing okay. And you kind of bring them to the modern world and you ask them what they need and with their skills, how they can now help you. They don't need to do that bodyguard job anymore that they've been trying to help you by keeping you away from everything. So you go,
Right.
we're not doing that anymore. What new job could you now do instead with your skills? Because they've all got skills. Even the skills like the needy phobic abandonment terror, that has amazing skills in it of like incredible observation. I can see a flutter of the muscle of your face move that means I'm not loved anymore. You know, like all the different parts of us, they have skills they're using for unhealthy ends. So we repurpose those skills and turn all the demons into employees, which is all they wanted to ever be anyway.
Well, that's where your teaching comes up with the thought of, you know, we take all these laxatives and get a lot of this poo out that you describe, but that's what opens us up to more creativity.
Yeah. Creativity rushes into the space where we were hiding.
Hiding.
Yeah, exactly. Like people are scared of space because it's boring. It might be, but really it's because uncomfortable feelings come up in the space. But what also comes up is millions of great ideas. Space is full of ideas. And when you go yin, you go quiet, you go listening, you go curious, it comes towards you. But you have to stay still. And if we're running around to find it, it can't get a fix on you. If you just stay still, the spaceship can get a lock and beam you up.
You have such great metaphors.
Definitely.
I feel like I've been hanging around you all my life. No,
I never said the spaceship one before. I'm going to write that down.
Write that down.
Well, tell us about your music.
That's what I'm writing this down.
Huh?
He's writing that spaceship.
He's writing
metaphor
okay.
down.
Take a second to write that down.
This is how I wrote my book, by the way.
Really?
I gotta
So
say,
when I was in a workshop,
I was just gonna say quickly that your book is amazing. It's very simple. It's very simple. I mean, not that
it's
you're
so
simplistic.
eloquently written.
yeah, for everyday people. I hope it's for muggles. I mean, I hope all of us are working for the muggles. It's great. All the people who are already doing yoga, fantastic. We got to find the muggles. We got to strip it of its dolphins and its rainbows and all the off-putting paraphernalia, and strip it of its crucifixes and its Buddhas and the other religious paraphernalia. And then 95% of the people on the planet will get it. But it's couched in such nasty trappings that they don't want to be like that. I'm not a bypassing hippie crystal wearer. Keep that shit away from me. Or I'm not a religious Christian witch burner. Keep that shit away from me. So like, there's so many reasons to not get this incredible information because of the costumes it wears. So I feel really passionate about stripping away all those costumes, anything that could be off-putting, and just give the real basic information, that is just everyday people.
Wow. That's cool.
So you talk about those costumes. Maybe give us a little bit of a description of those types of costumes or what those costumes look like.
I'm talking about the costumes that people sell this information with.
Right.
I'm not talking about the costumes we wear. That's another whole story.
Okay.
We wear the roles like I'm a good
No,
son.
that's good too.
I've got high status. But the costumes, what I'm saying is that this information, for example, of like turning towards how you feel on the inside, essential. Every human has to at some point, whether life forces them to, or whether they happen to find a good Qigong teacher, they have to go inside and feel themselves and not be externally fixated. Everyone has to do that at some point. Now, you can teach that with great Chinese simples and Taoist masters and a sort of, the costume of the trappings, and like have dolphins and rainbows or whatever, and it will turn off 90% of any people who have taste. And therefore, 90% of people, the great information will be lost to them. And the same thing is within religion. Within Christianity, there are, of course, some essential messages of compassion and humility. Of course there are.
Great
but
teachings.
when you look at all the abusive pedophile priests and all the, you know, ways that people have been ripped off on their deathbed for their money so that they don't go to hell, but that money didn't go to serve the poor and the needy, it went to serve golden candlesticks in the Vatican. When you start seeing the abuses of power, when you start seeing the hypocrisy, when you start seeing all that, the burning the women at the stake, of course you don't want anything to do with Jesus's message, because you don't want to be anything to do with those things I just listed. And so anybody with any good sense, how any woman could be a Christian, for example, you know, the Christians, what that club did after the Christian club did after Jesus died, just waged war on women and their magic and their sexuality and their treasure, just waged war on it, you know, and just still to this day trying to stamp it out.
Right.
And it's like so disgusting. It's worse than the Nazis. How that organization is allowed to carry on is a total mystery to me. But there it is, and it doesn't pay tax. You know, we need to liquidate their assets for a start and give all the money to the poor. So how this is not happening, how this is not obvious to everyone, to me is just extraordinary, you know. But anyway, those crucifixes and those trappings and those costumes, they put everybody off what could be some beautiful teachings that are useful for everyone. And the efficiency of these teachings is what I'm all about. I love the lyricism, I love the songs, I love the Bible stories. But what I really love is the efficiency, that when you actually turn the other cheek, you feel better. It's just efficient. It's not because we're holy. It's not because we're risen above to some angelic level where God is going to give us special treatment. It's not any of those things. It's just, it feels nicer. I feel more peaceful. I have a more fun, thriving life that way. That's the only thing that's important, that I can thrive, that you can thrive. It's efficiency I'm looking for. And I think that these costumes I've been complaining about incessantly are hiding in plain sight some very, very vital and could make so many people's life better. Just like it is a magic wand of these concepts. They're so graspable. You don't have to have been doing 10 years meditation to just feel your feelings and be willing to share your vulnerability. You don't need to have some great spiritual training or diploma or the specific Sanskrit translation in order to just do these very simple, human, soft, self-loving, curious practices that don't rely on new age things or religious things or anything. And I just want it for everybody. It hurts me how, not hurts me, that's going a bit far, but I just want everyone to have this treasure and this beautiful ecstatic enjoyment and colorful life that's available, which isn't in the uptight shop window of who I think you need me to see me as, you know?
So what's your plan to make it happen?
I just carry on doing stuff, music, work within my little sphere of influence. Sometimes you do something that gets far, like One Giant Leap or Faithless or hopefully the Becoming Nobody film. Sometimes you do something that's just a conversation with your daughter about something that makes her feel better about her body and no one else was in the kitchen, you know, just everywhere. And it doesn't mean that you did better if you reached further. You can't get attached to how far God decides your fruits go. You know, I had a thing with my book where, like, I would have loved it if my book had become The Power of Now and Insanely Gifted was the new thing and I sold 1 million copies. Of course, I want that message to go to everybody. And then at the same time, someone once showed up at a workshop and they said to me, "A month ago, I found your book. It was the day I had absolutely decided and planned to kill myself."
Yeah.
And I found your book, and I don't know why it was the little funny lizard on the front. I just kind of picked it up and started reading it. And it just totally spoke to me, and it turned me around. And I didn't kill myself, obviously. In fact, I feel so amazing. I've come here from wherever other country. I want to teach your work. Now, at that moment, what would I rather have? 1 million book sales or someone that didn't kill themselves?
Totally.
Between you and I, we all know the real answer to that question. But he would have been an acceptable loss.
We take the mask off. And we admit.
How do you really feel about that? But you know, that's a curious, that brought me to a curious question, because when I opened up your book and I got your book, I'm like, I wonder why the Newt?
It's an axolotl, isn't it?
It's an axolotl.
Axolotl.
Yeah, it's an axolotl.
I've attached meaning since then, as so many people have asked. The real reason it's an axolotl is because he's got such a lovely face.
It's happy.
He's kind of vulnerable and quizzical and soft and lovely, and he's who I think we all look like without our masks on. And the other reason is that axolotls are self-mending. You can cut their arm off and it'll grow back.
Wow.
They're resilient.
Regeneration, right?
Yeah, they're resilient. But I hadn't thought about that when I did the cover. I've got to catch that since. I didn't even know that they were self-generating, in fact. I just thought, look at that little face. He looks like one of our little demons. It's like a lovely, cuddly, he's got something to give us demon. You know, look, it kind of reframes the demons for me.
Wow. So there's an example of what you teach is that you do something because you like it. You find out the answers to how actually important it might be or meaningful it might be later on, but you just act on what feels right. And then it ends up being right.
And it's because I feel safe. You can only do that if you allow yourself to feel safe and realize you're not in as much danger as you think. We're making much too big a deal of everything. You're not in as much danger as you think. There's no mad Mexican that's going to come out and rape you. There's no fucking great humiliation that's going to happen if you share some of your vulnerability. Some people might not get it, but then those are not your people. Take off those masks. Be who you really are. Some people will leave. They were never your people, but the people who stay are the people that love the real you. And that's where you're really going to be nourished, rather than get people to like you for something you're not really. Then you're never quite eating the food. It's a mirage. So you're much safer than you think. Risk losing people. Be you. Let them go. If they don't like the real you, it's not like fuck you, but if they don't like the real you, that's okay. A locked door isn't your door. There are plenty of other open ones. Don't stay rattling the same locked door. Try some other doors.
Totally.
You're safe.
So, Jackie, how does that apply to speak, lead, and feed?
Well, I think that, it applies a lot. And I think it because a lot of the children that I teach belong to specific cultures, and they live their lives based on culture. They don't live their life based on who they are. They live their life based on what their family culture tells them they need to be or do. And so it instills in me an even more important need to allow these children to see who they are. Not to discredit family or culture or anything like that, but just to make sure that they understand what they can give to the world just by being themselves.
Exactly. You don't have to fit in the rules your family gave you, but a lot of their rules were given the wrong rule book, like never look vulnerable, never fail publicly. Like these are the things that you must do in order to have a happy, intimate life and discover things, So, respect your parents, but also understand, look at the people that brought them up. You really want to grow up with the values of your grandparents and their parents. And eventually when we realize it's not working, we have this beautiful opportunity to stop doing those things and not pass it on to our kids and give them the correct values, the real rule book for how this reality plane works, which is follow your excitement, take action, trust your excitement. The feeling of excitement in your body is the spirit telling you this is good for you. So trust that excitement, moved as a compass, your excitement, your love, your attraction, your interest, your curiosity. Let that be your compass. It will never lead you wrong. And sometimes it will lead you into pain, but there will be bumps along the way, but you will be heading in the right direction. And so much magic happens when you dare to trust that you might be safer than your upbringing told you. And it's okay to get laughed at sometimes. It's okay to release a dodgy album track. You've got to let some of the rubbish come through so that the good stuff can come through. And we're also perfect. We can't bear anyone seeing anything we do as anything other than wonderful and perfect. So we're constantly editing our creativity before it's even flowered into a bud. We're pruning the bush before it's even made buds yet. And because we don't feel safe in people seeing us. But John Lennon, Bjork, Jimi Hendrix, all these artists, they released some very dodgy album tracks. It wasn't, not every track is good. A lot of it's hopeless. But among it is some incredible life-changing magic for everybody. But you can't deliver that magic to people unless you're willing for crappy stuff to come through and you not be seen as Mr. or Mrs. Perfect all the time.
Well, the other thing too is making agreements to things. As we're younger, we agree to things that we probably wouldn't have agreed to, but we just went along with what we were told, what we were directed, what we were guided.
We thought that we would lose our love if we didn't. The stream of love and approval is life to a kid, and they're all about that. So if they suddenly get told off when they were being messy a few times and they're shamed, then they learn not to be messy again because they don't want to have that. but it might be a beautiful thing they get told off for, like being a flamboyant entertainer. It's a
Or
beautiful
show off.
part of everybody has got, stop showing off in front of your friends. Now suddenly that very natural, beautiful, legitimate part of you that might want to teach or entertain or sing a song is now tagged with a bit of shame. And now you're thinking you're an attention whore when you were just sharing your natural gifts. So it's not just dark things that go into the shadow. People think the shadow work is like all my yucky stuff, my greed, my neediness. No, the shadow is also your flamboyant entertainer. It's also your lovely, messy chaos that made great art that you had beaten out of you. Everything goes into the shadow that you were taught was unwelcome. And it's not only bad things, or dark things. Not that anger or neediness is bad anyway, but it's not only the antisocial things that go in there. It's beautiful parts of yourself, like physical beauty, your sexuality. So many people were sitting on the sofa once and absentmindedly as a child sort of exploring their genitals or whatever, and someone walked into the room and went, "Stop that, it's disgusting," or whatever. Now they've got body shame, and so their beautiful love and enjoyment of their body is now in the shadow, and they want to now get undressed in the dark, even as an adult. These have really far-reaching, the shadow and the things we've been shown are unwelcome have huge, far-reaching limitations on the general, everyday, legitimate enjoyment of life. And I want to give it back to everybody.
So, Jamie, we just have about 9 minutes left. This show has just flown by. I mean,
wonderful. Thank you for having me.
But give us a little description about what it looks like to work through the shadow, work through the yucky stuff that pops up, work through that.
Hilarious. It's all laughter. It's not, the tears are the tears of coming home if you're crying. It's very rare that people wig out into a trauma with this stuff, because it's like, you just find it so ridiculous, but you're in a group of people who are all finding their own melodrama ridiculous together. So like we play the suffering game, for example, how much we manipulate people with our suffering, and we elevate suffering as a currency to get what we want. There's a chapter in the book, Suffering for Love. We believe the more I suffer, the more you should love me and give me my own love. So that's again, the screwed up Christian ethic. You saint, you die a martyr's death. We absolutely love you. What we play with that is we do a list of all the ways we use to manipulate with our suffering to get the love or get our own way, but without directly asking for it and being an adult. So we go through the list and we write them down and we go, hallelujah, if it's one of ours. Like we go, here's a classic, like looking upset until they notice. Do you ever do that?
Oh, right.
That's an ultimate manipulation. You want their love and attention. You don't have
ask for
it. So what do? You go very quiet. You turn your head a quarter turn out the other car window and you emanate silence until they say, "Hey, what's wrong?"
What's wrong?
Yeah. That's the ultimate suffering manipulation.
Or when people on Facebook will just post something like, "Well, I'm having a really bad day." And that's all they say.
What's wrong?
And they expect you to go, "Why? What's happening? What's going on? Tell us about it."
Or storming out of the room, hoping to be chased. And then you have to, is there anything worse than having to come back into the room when you haven't been chased and huff and puff and pretend to be looking for your keys so that you can carry on the argument? Or just going on about, how tired you are and how little sleep you've had. Or, going on about body parts that you don't like, or exaggerating how bad things are. We exaggerate. We were kept on the tarmac for an hour. We were kept on the tarmac. We always round it up, not round it down.
Right.
So just how much we manipulate and milk us, or telling everyone our sad stories, like milking all the terrible abuses and neglect we had, because it makes us more special and lovable and deserving of, we're specially neglected. We wear it like a badge of honor. Or showing people the wound. There's just a million ways that we do it, millions. So we go through them all and we piss ourselves laughing about how much we do all these things as a group. Because when I read each one out on the list, if it's one of yours, you have to throw both your hands in the air and shout hallelujah. So everybody's cracking up like going, hallelujah, Jesus.
That's me. That's me.
Or Allah Akbar or Jah Rastafari. It doesn't have to be the Christian thing, but just whatever they want to play, bear gospel witness to the neurosis. And then what we do is we sit in circles and you take it in turns to pick one from your list. And then you manipulate your subgroup of 5 people with it. And you do the manipulation on them. And the game is for them to totally buy into the manipulation and give it everything it wants. Go, oh, that's terrible. That must be really hard. And just give it everything it wants. If they storm out of the room, chase after them going, sorry, we didn't mean it. And just once and for all.
It's a crazy visual, man.
This sounds like fun.
Exactly. And then what happens is that shadow, that demon that used to manipulate through suffering in your life, next time you find yourself doing it, you crack up. You can't do it anymore. It has its swan song. It has its last operatic death, because you can never do it seriously again. You can every time you catch yourself from now on, you just find it. Oh, I'm in it, you know. And then you ask for the love you want. And so it's just the way that we move these demons and these things is through laughter and community and laughter and just being crazy with each other like a kid's party. And it's very unvulnerable. You know, it's much less edgy than you'd think. It's actually hilarious.
I bet these groups become really good friends. These people that are in these
exactly.
groups together, because you've just completely opened up all your vulnerability, your true self to these people, and they can only be good friends from that point on, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it's not in a, as I said, it's not in a creepy, soppy kind of vulnerable way. It's not squirmy.
Right.
It's like, you know, when you see a great stand-up comedian and you're all laughing, like Louis C.K., who's like one of the darkest, but you're laughing when you kind of know you shouldn't be laughing, but you're all kind of laughing at yourself, like the human predicament together.
Right.
The best comedians laugh at the human predicament, and we all laugh at these quirky things that we never knew everyone else did too. And that communal laughing at ourselves, it creates such permission to do deep shadow work that doesn't feel like work, because you're laughing so much and we're all doing it together. No one's better or ashamed, because we're all in it. We're all crazy. I always say to my groups at the beginning, you're all crazy. Don't even try hiding.
No.
You know you're fucking crazy, okay?
I was just going to say.
If people in your life could hear your inner dialogue on a daily basis, you would all lose your jobs. There'd be no more Reiki clients for you. I know.
Oh my goodness, Jamie, we are totally out of time. This hour just flew by. I hope you're open to coming back, because I think there's a whole bunch of things that we could talk about. You're a groovy. Isn't he a groovy guy, Jackie?
It's amazing. It's so much fun. And where are you from, Jamie? Where do you originate from?
London, England.
London. So how'd you end up in Colorado?
Because I'm promoting the Becoming Nobody Ramdas film for 5 weeks going across America.
Okay. So tell us about that, because it's coming into our Todd and I's local area. So tell us about what we can expect.
We got 2 minutes. 2 minutes quick.
It's not a biography. It's a journey for you of laughing your tits off and coming back to yourself and waking up to your joy and you know, the part of you that's actually awake and kind and not in the melodrama. BecomingNobody.com has all the theaters, and you can sign up and host your own screening if you're not near enough for theater. Seattle this Sunday, Oregon in the next few days, Eugene and Portland, blah, blah, blah. But just go to BecomingNobody.com and just like, you just be treated to the wonderful sacred fool that is Ramdas.
Nice. Very cool. Thank you so much for, and you know, if you're hanging out in Seattle past Sunday, Deepak Chopra will be here on Wednesday.
Oh, good. He owes me money. Great.
That's about all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Jamie was a great guest, and I'm definitely going to have him back. I hope you learned something today that you can put in your toolkit along your life mastery journey. Go to jamiecatto.com if you want to find out more about him, or becomingnobody.com if you want to find out where the movie is at. Lastly, do me a favor. Make it a great day, because it is all about choice. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
What a pro.
Right.
Very cool.